Okay. So we will start off our meeting as we always do by acknowledging the Arapaho, Ute, and Cheyenne tribes, the traditional custodians of the land on which the Police Oversight Panel and Boulder Police Department operate, and pay our respects to their elders, past and present. And I'd like to welcome the public to our meeting. We really do value your input, and we will have public comment at the end of tonight's meeting. And then of course I want to welcome panel members for being here, and for everyone who's here, Joey, the public, panel members, just acknowledging there's a lot happening in the world, there's a lot happening in our personal lives, and just expressing the gratitude for everyone being here to make time and space for this essential work for our community. I will, for members of the public, if you have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A to get those to us. We won't be checking the chat. We will be checking the Q&A. Panel members, I'm wondering if there's someone who could keep an eye on the Q&A tonight. Usually Victor does that, but if one of you could volunteer to keep an eye on and respond to anything coming in.
I can do that for y'all. If there's anything like directed towards the panel, I can just call your attention to it. Just since there's only 4 of you at the moment, you can all be focused on the meeting.
Great. That sounds good. That sounds good to me. If that sounds good to anyone else, but if there's any objections. Okay, thanks, Joey. So yes, members of the public, please use the Q&A, and members of the panel, anything you want to say to the group, be sure to voice that out loud. Don't drop that into the chat. But if you need to do any one-to-one communications with anyone during the meeting, including me, to remind me if I skipped anything in the agenda or that sort of thing, go ahead and use the chat for that, no problem. For members of the public, just a reminder of how to submit complaints against officers of the Boulder Police Department and how to contact us outside of meetings. So if you go to our web address, bouldercolorado.gov/services/police-oversight, that's where you can find, right now we have Joey Lapari's email is there. Anything you direct to the panel through Joey does send to us. He's obligated to send that to us. We will see it and respond, and we'll have our address, a separate panel address up shortly. And of course, on that website too, you will find instructions for how to submit a complaint and how that process works. We'll read through the agenda for this evening. We will go ahead and postpone the approval of last month's meeting notes until we have quorum. But we will go through our committee reports, a report from Community Engagement and Communications Committee, the Governance Committee, the Legacy Review Committee. We'll have a brief conversation about our committee structure and roles. We need to touch base just about membership and making sure we have plenty of representatives on each of our committees. Then we're going to talk a bit about retreat planning, and then we'll have our monitors report from Joey, which will include a report on outcome of case reviews and our monthly case statistics. That's our complaint case statistics. And then the panel will select cases to review in the coming months. And then finally, we will end the meeting with public comment. So before moving forward, any questions, comments, concerns, or any other business that we should add to the agenda for this evening, panel members? Cool beans. In that case, let's jump into committee reports. And I can give an update, since Victor and Taisha aren't here, I can give an update on the Community Engagement and Communications Committee. So we met again last week and had some good discussions and are starting to set up the groundwork for starting to identify, in particular, events, community events and community organizations that we want to work with, as well as starting a relationship with the city's community outreach teams, including their communications teams, to see how much support they can offer for our mission and goals as we get out into the community and engage more. And yeah, I think that's as much as we have with that. And I'll pass it over to Hadassah for governance.
Thank you, Daniel. So for governance, we do have an amendment proposal that we will hope to be, that we hope to be voting on next month. So we will be sending that out with requests for input. We'll also be sending it to legal for review with any feedback from them. So we'll have that presentation for everyone next month. My question is, so it is give me a chance to share the screen. Do I have that ability?
Just a sec, I'll have to just make you a co-host real quick.
Sure. Thank you, Joey.
Okay, go ahead. You got it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So what we're talking about is for the bylaws, specifically 4.2, which is the full case file review of complaints. So starting to work through that procedure as we've been going through and realizing what that procedure looks like for us. And so specifically, it would be, excuse me, a amendment to section B, which is police oversight panel disposition recommendations. So this is talking about, basically, if we've received a complaint and we feel that the investigation is not thorough, or we would like some more information, the process for going through requesting for more information, and if that gets rejected, then kind of how we would escalate. And so, there we go. Just kind of echoing in what our ordinance says, that we can increase, or, if the chief of police does not accept our recommendation, how we can escalate that, request an escalation to the city manager. It would be by writing. And so it is kind of following the same format as ordinance 8430, which is our ordinance creating us, section 211(5)(b) 4B. So we'll send all of this again in writing. One question I do have, Joey, is how do we make this information also available to the public during this month, if anybody would like some feedback to actually see this in text?
I think the first step would be to send the suggestion or the proposal to the city attorney's office to get the legal review, get like a final version of what you all want to propose. And then once the panel has sort of agreed to what the language would be, then we can post it on the website, just like we did with the bylaws, and have like a 2-3 week comment period, public comment period. And then you all can come back the following month and vote on it.
Okay.
That would be what I think the steps would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So pending the, how long that process takes, we hope for it to be next month. Again, we'll send this all out. We'll have it posted for information. And then we hope to be voting on this specific amendment next month to our bylaws. The other issue will be our guiding principles. We will also be starting to look for molding that, getting some more information. So specifically next meeting, which will be May 18th, we'll be kind of diving through the text of that and working through some of that. So if there is anybody that is interested, please do attend. We would love some input, panel members, community, etc. So, and I think that is all that I have. Thank you. Stop sharing.
Thanks, Hadassah. I will pass it over to Martha then for any updates on the Legacy Review Committee.
Kind of quick and dirty on the Legacy Review. We haven't met, but we are scheduled to meet on the 23rd, which is a Monday. And at that meeting, we're going to hope to establish regular meeting time, decide on which method or mechanism to receive referrals for those, and then discuss the suggestion brought up in the last meeting regarding accountability. So those are kind of our bullets from the attempt to schedule.
Thanks, Martha. Oh, yeah, Hadassah, I saw you unmuted.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say time. Sorry, but we'll have them posted online anyway. That's okay. Never mind. You're good.
So next up, we just want to touch base with committee structures and roles. And I think we can do that in part with us, but this really needs to be a full panel conversation as well. But I do know for sure. So Ariel, you were thinking of moving fully into governance, and then I will move fully into communications then. So Hadassah and Martha, I won't be in governance no more. But if you ever have small projects, I'd be happy to jump in.
I think just based off the breakdown of how things are right now, that'll be most helpful in terms of distribution of people. So I will now permanently be on governance. So
great. And then I was going to check, Martha, are you feeling you have enough support on your committee? Do you know, I know the communications and outreach committee has quite a few people. So I just wanted to check in with you as co-chair, or sorry, as chair of the legacy committee, if you're feeling support and you have what you need.
I think we have, you know, solid people on that particular group, but like I technically sometimes attend the communications meeting, but that's more so because like I want to figure out what communication options are so that we can figure out like if that's a good mechanism for us. I definitely have opinions on that and would welcome like community impact, but I primarily want to be in legacy review and governance, not so much unless I need to fill in or something for the communications one.
Totally. And that's where I think that makes a lot of sense too, is that if we're keeping our committee meetings on the meetings planning document and sharing that with everyone, I think we should all at any time feel welcome to jump in on a committee meeting. I think we can consider ourselves all ex officio members of committees to support when and where we can, but to also identify like, yeah, these are the 3 to 4 people who are the committee who need to be leading that work and following through on it. Yeah, cool. And it's new. We've only had committees for like 3 months, so this is growing and changing. We can make it whatever we need it to be. So in that case, I will hand it over to Ariel to talk about retreat planning.
great. So in terms of retreat planning, I'm going to be sending out a doodle probably tomorrow or this weekend. The aim is for, and I'm just going to kind of walk through the agenda for the retreat, will be in June or July on a Saturday or Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. There will be an arrival, kind of a breakfast, mix and mingle. Then we're going to go into kind of an expectations versus reality session of the panel. So just kind of reflection and looking forward. We thought that this might be a good time after discussing with Joey to do media training, which I think there's a recorded, right? There's a video of a media training that the city's done recently. Is that right, Joey?
They're going to provide something for us when we're ready to have it. That recording,
Great.
it ended up not being
Okay.
perfect, just right, just what we need for our purposes. But so they realized that after they did it for these other groups, but they're going to provide something.
Yeah, so we'll have an hour of media training, we'll have a short lunch, and then there's going to be 2 panelist-led sessions. And so if anyone here, those are kind of TBD of what they're going to look like. They'll each be an hour. So if any of us want to lead something, take on something, this is the time to start shooting Danielle and I emails with, hey, I think this would be a great thing. I want to lead it, or I want to be involved with planning it. And if we don't hear, then we'll ping you. So better to volunteer, right? And then we'll have kind of a reflection on the retreat, and then hopefully another half hour of kind of informal. And so I really have tried to plan it so it's looking like a balance of formal sessions and informal. I think actually probably what the panel most needs at this time is kind of informal bonding most. I think we do a lot of formal, productive, professional work. And I think actually getting to know one another on a more personal level is kind of the biggest intention of the retreat. What we still need to iron out details of is location. Joey, I personally think this would be great if we could find somewhere city to host it, somewhere in the city, like a city building or space. So I think once we get the date nailed down and the time, that would be something to work on with you. And then also figuring out the budget for meals, so a breakfast and lunch, and making sure that we have that set aside and can help figure out ordering and catering and all of that. I think the biggest thing, just to reinforce right now, and there's not many of us here, but is that we're really gonna be asking you to set aside a full day, right? So it's, when I send out this doodle, it's really saying, okay, here's my summer calendar, and where do I have wiggle room on the weekends? Where can I reschedule something with my family or friends, and prioritizing this retreat because it's been something we've been trying to plan forever. And so that's just something I would emphasize right now, is that really trying to make the dates that work for most people work for you too. And if that requires some juggling, to please try to juggle, just because I think this is an important event. So look out for that doodle. And then if you have ideas about sessions that you'd like to see, and then you guys will hear from me as I work with Joey kind of on the back end to figure out the location. Also for the public, there are probably aspects of the retreat when we're talking formal panel matters that will be public, and we'll make sure that there's a link available. But then also, since this is a lot of kind of personal bonding and getting to know another, those sessions will be private. And so just to note for the public that there will only be certain sessions, and we'll make sure that we publicize that agenda so you guys know when to kind of clue in and clue out throughout the day. And that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Adalsa, Martha, any thoughts related to the retreat, questions, comments? Cool beans.
I'm excited. It feels like Snuffleupagus, where we talk about it, but we haven't seen it.
In terms of location, now that the Tate Municipal Building is reopened, there's some really nice spaces in there. There's also some nice rooms in the public library downtown too that we could potentially check out. So I'll touch base with the chairs and we'll get that location nailed down once we have a date, I guess.
Awesome. Cool beans. Then in that case, Joey, how about the monitors report?
The first quick update I wanted to give, and I have a few things I just added to my monitors report that just kind of happened in the last day or so. So I wanted to include those. The first thing I wanted to mention was just acknowledge the officer involved shooting that happened in Boulder today. The details are still coming out, and there'll be more details available tomorrow. What I can say at this point is that I was notified as the monitor about the incident, but it did not fall into the MOU that we signed with the department in terms of requiring the monitor to be on to respond to the scene. I can't go into why just yet, but I think those details will be in the public tomorrow that will explain that. And I'll provide another email to the panel further explaining that. But I was fortunate no one was seriously injured. It was a scary situation that could have been a lot worse. So we're very fortunate that no one was seriously injured. Second point I just wanted to add was that because we had the city council tried to go back in person, ended up having 2 of the council members get COVID. And so they kind of hit another pause, just a temporary pause on going back in person. We were thinking we would be able to go back in person in June, but it looks like, well, they're telling us, let's hold off. Everyone's holding off until July. So just 1 month for now, and we're going to keep watching the numbers. I don't think that affects our retreat, because it's the reason they made this decision was more about having members of the public come into the building in mass, and they didn't want to put everyone at risk. So for public meetings, we'll hold off until at least no earlier than July, but we can still do our retreat in person, I think, if you all want to, in June. Quick note on the annual report. I know we've been saying each month that this was coming. We are in the very last stages. There's just one last thing to finalize. We do need to get that out by June 1st. The reason I say June 1st is because we've included some highlights from the annual report in the city's summer newsletter that will be released on June 1st. And so if we don't have the report out by June 1st, there'll be some highlights from the report in the newsletter without the report yet being available to the public. So, but I think we're definitely on track to get this out. Daniel, your sense is that we're on track to get this out by end of June, by end of this month?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
Okay, cool. Quick reminder, on May 25th, the panel has its quarterly meeting with Chief Harold. I'll send out an email as well, just to remind folks. We'll need maybe 1 or 2 folks to start putting together some questions or some topics that they want to discuss, that you all want to discuss with the chief. But that'll be public. So members of the public, that will be posted on the website. That's May 25th. The day before, the link will be available so that members of the public can join and listen into that discussion. Another item, 2023 budget. I wanted to raise with all of you. We have a couple of sort of financial decision points coming up for the 2023 budget. I wanted to share with you the sort of 3 areas, sort of discretionary areas of the budget that where we're going to try to increase the funding so that we can do a few other things. So the first one is outreach and engagement. We're going to try to get that, get about a $10,000 budget for that. So that would cover things like this is food, if we had food at the events, any costs for the location, any other costs associated with outreach engagement, brochures, printed material, anything like that. We'll be able to dip into that money, about $10,000. For the NACO conference, this in our past budget, we had put in enough funding for the monitor to go to the conference, but we've been talking about trying to get a couple of panel members to go to the conference each year, potentially like 1 current co-chair and maybe 1 future co-chair, so that we can have sort of that experience building process happening and not sort of lose all that knowledge. So we're going to increase, we're going to put the request in for travel money for up to $10,000. It was about $3,000 for 1 person to go to that trip. That includes the fee for the conference, the hotel, the flight, per diem for food and everything. So we're going to raise that to $10,000 so that we can get not just the monitor, but at least 2 panel members to go as well. Stipends, I'm going to try to get those stipends increased as well. I've been doing some research on what the handful of other cities that do stipends for their oversight board or commission or panel members. I've been collecting that information so that I could make my case to the city that to raise the stipend for here. I can't give you a number right now what it's going to be, and ultimately that decision will be made by some higher ups and be ultimately passed by the city council when they approve the budget. But my desire or my plan is going to be to try to get it as high as we possibly can. But I will have a clear number to report to you, I think, by next week, by middle or end of next week, that we'll be putting into the budget. And I would like to do a little bit higher pay for the co-chairs, unless there's any objections to that. I think everyone agrees and has seen that the co-chairs end up spending a lot more time with this work. Now, I mean, everyone spends a lot of time, but especially the co-chairs. So maybe just an extra $50 or something for the co-chairs in addition to the increase for everyone else. Okay, in terms of the outcome of the cases that the panel reviewed over the past month, we have 3 cases to report on. Only one of them we have a final conclusion on, but I'll give you a sense of where the other 2 are at as well. And what I'm about to report out to the public, these notes are also going to be included, or these statements will be included in the notes that will be posted on the website. So if you miss something or want to hear the description of the case again, that'll be posted by end of the day tomorrow on our website. So case MI 2021-049. This involved an individual who was arrested for prohibited use of a possession of a weapon, which was a firearm, while intoxicated. Police were dispatched to the location, made contact as the individual was outside of their ex-partner's apartment, making repeated and harassing phone calls to the ex-partner. In their complaint, the individual stated that they had a concealed weapons permit and believed they were falsely arrested and their vehicle was illegally searched. In addition, the complainant stated that certain personal valuables were missing from the vehicle after it was impounded. The search that resulted in the firearm being found in the vehicle began as an effort by an officer to retrieve the intoxicated individual's identification from inside the vehicle. The individual had already indicated that there were knives in the vehicle, so the officer could not allow the individual to go back into the vehicle to retrieve their ID. While the officer was attempting to retrieve the ID, the suspect's ex-partner called the officer and informed the officer that the individual carried a firearm in the vehicle. The officer then began a deeper search of the vehicle to find the gun. The officer did then find the gun and arrested the individual. The vehicle impound was handled by a different officer. That officer did not document any personal valuables on the impound inventory. The monitor, I classified this complaint as 2 separate allegations. Officer 1, allegation of a Rule 1 violation, specifically General Order 305-8 on consensual searches. And then Officer 2 lodged it as an allegation of a Rule 1 violation, specifically General Order 206-5 vehicle inspection. So a panel committee conducted a full case file review and recommended that both allegations be sustained against the officers. The panel committee recommended retraining for both officers through supervisory counseling. The chief of police came to the determination of sustained for the allegation against officer number 1 of violating General Order 305-8 on consensual searches, because the officer did not clearly indicate that the search for the ID was voluntary and could be declined by the arrestee. The chief of police issued retraining for officer number 1 through supervisory counseling, consistent with the panel committee's recommendation. The chief of police came to a determination of not sustained for the allegation against officer number 2 of violating General Order 206-5 on vehicle inspection. The chief concluded that officer number 2 had conducted a sufficient examination of the vehicle prior to impounding. No retraining was issued for officer number 2. Cases MI 2022-001. This case involved an allegation of untruthfulness against an officer involved in a minor vehicle incident. A panel committee has reviewed the case and provided its recommendations to the department. The department is in the process of conducting additional investigation of this case at the direction of the chief of police. The outcome will be shared at next month's meeting. The final determination has not yet been made in this case. MI 2022-004, this one was reviewed by a panel committee just last night. This involves an allegation of an officer violating Rule 5, police authority and public trust. The panel committee reviewed the case and requested additional information from the department before making a final determination on their recommendation. So when we receive that information, it'll be provided to the panel and they will reconvene that discussion and make their recommendation. In terms of our case statistics, we had 3 complaints and 2 community inquiries in April. So far in May, we've had 1 complaint and no community inquiries, and there are currently 15 open investigations. That concludes the monitor's report. I'll turn it back over to the chairs.
Thanks, Joey. With Victor on, we have quorum. So why don't we pop back up to the top of the agenda, and we need to approve last month's meeting notes. And so panel members, those are in the meeting folder that Joey shared with us. And so if you just want to take a second to look those over real quick. And at this time, you can offer any changes to those minutes, to those notes before we approve them. So we'll just take a minute to see if any panel members would like to recommend any changes to the minutes. Okie dokie then. In that case, I move to approve the meeting notes for our April 14th, 2022 meeting. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Ariel, second. Hands in the air, all in favor? 2, 3, 4. And Victor, thank you. I see your hand. So approved. Thank you very much. And in that case, we'll pop back to where we were in the agenda. 7:06. Panel members, would you like to take our 5-minute break now and come back to do the selection of cases in public comment? Let's do that. I see Hadassah nodding. That's all I needed. Let's go ahead and take our 5-minute break now. Let's be back at 7:11. Thank you. You ever get so many tabs open, it takes 100 clicks? There we go. Great. Okay. Welcome back, y'all. So next up for us is our regular review of case summaries for us to vote on. And just a note for members of the public, what we're voting on right now, as you just heard from Joey gives the full case reviews after they've been completed, after the panel and the chief of police have made their final determinations. But until that time, we need to keep these cases and the complaints private. And so we won't share those with you, but what I can share you, what we're voting on are summaries of, they're not just summaries of complaints members of the public have given us, they're summaries of the full case that's underway. So that includes notes about any police camera footage of the situation, any available evidence, any initial investigations, any other complaints that may be relevant to the case, or any other extenuating circumstances. And so Joey compiles these case summaries for us specifically to give us as wide a view of the situation as we can before we vote on these, and not just considering the complaint, but considering everything that we can before we decide whether or not to review the case. And so panel members, you received those cases from Joey earlier this week. And I wanted to start off, Joey, a question for you on MI 2022-008. There's nothing for us to do there, correct?
Correct. That was just to inform you all that the complainant had withdrawn it. And the information is available, the withdrawal, the documentation of the withdrawal. It's actually a body worn camera video. It's posted in the file. So if you all wanted to check that out and confirm that you feel comfortable with it, you can do that. But yeah, since he's withdrawn it, there's nothing to do with it at this point.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Joey. So in that case, panel members, we're going to start with MI 2022-009, filed on April 6, 2022. And this is a Rule 1 allegation and a Rule 1 allegation. And I'll wait for Joey to come back. So give yourself to refamiliarize yourself with that case. And with a show of hands, all in favor of reviewing MI 2022-009. And I see Victor too. Thank you. Unanimous. So we will go ahead and review that one. Next up, y'all, is MI 2022-010. This was filed April 25th, 2022. This is a Rule 5 allegation, police authority and public trust. Give me a second. And hands up, all in favor of reviewing this case. And there it is. Thank you, Victor. 5, so we will go ahead and review this one as well. And that is all for this month.
I did have a quick question about 008. So that's my youngest. So when a person withdraws, does it take off the conclusion that was listed? Because
when someone withdraws, the final classification for it is unfounded.
okay, so it just prompts that no matter what, like the person can't.
Yeah, the definition of unfounded outcome includes if someone withdraws it. There's some other things too that can end up as unfounded, but one of them is if the person withdraws it, then it just goes to unfounded. I will say that even if someone were to withdraw a complaint, and as the investigators, we still saw something in that as a department or as the monitor we were concerned with, we could still pursue that. We could like the department could file an internal complaint and carry it forward. But there does not seem to be any reason to do that in this case. So it would just end up as unfounded. That doesn't mean that if you all still wanted to review it, that you couldn't, but because he's withdrawn it, the outcome would still be unfounded. But you have the video, the whole file is there in the SharePoint. So if you want to take a look at it, at the video, at the withdrawal, and then let me know how you all feel about it and determine what you want to do. We can do that because last month
I haven't seen it. I was just like, wait a second, that makes it automatically unfounded. Like, what if the person was nervous or got intimidated or something? I don't know. That was my knee-jerk reaction, so I just wanted to check in about it.
If that was the case, if we thought it was like out of intimidation or something, that would be a situation where we would take over as the complainant and move it forward and investigate it. But I reviewed the withdrawal and I was comfortable with it. So I would just encourage you all to check that out. Let me know if you're not comfortable with it. You all could still, because you did vote to review this one. You all could still take a look at it and collectively discuss it and see if there's anything you wanted to say about it.
Hadassah, I see your hand.
Yeah, I think what makes me more uncomfortable is that something that was withdrawn is classified as unfounded, and what I would like to see in the world of moving forward to keeping better records is that they actually create a category that is specifically withdrawn or pending, or something that implies that it wasn't thoroughly reviewed, and that if that person changes their mind, that they can always come back and do so, right? I mean, it's not like it's done forever. They can, right?
we could, you all can talk about that if you want to make that recommendation to the department. The challenge might be keeping something sort of open indefinitely. That's not a good policy either. So at some point you have to close it out and make a determination. Otherwise, auditors like you, Hadassah, will come through and say, "Oh, you got these open cases and it hasn't been resolved." So you need some kind of determination at some point.
Right.
I mean, I wonder.
I think
Sorry.
the classification or the determination would be withdrawn, just because that is a much more specific and clear language around what actually happened, and as opposed to unfounded, because it isn't unfounded, it was withdrawn.
I get what you, and we could probably add like a breakout under the unfounded as, 3 of these that were unfounded were withdrawn. They're categorized as unfounded because they were withdrawn by the complainant. We could add that level of detail to differentiate them from the ones that are unfounded for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Hadassah, because it's, I mean, to categorize a withdrawal in the same category as, the panel finds this to be unfounded are 2 radically different things. And so I think it does make sense that they shouldn't share a label. And to your point, it's just withdrawn. The complaint was withdrawn, which communicates exactly what happened, the meaning of what happened. Yeah.
If it's withdrawn and that's considered like a closed category, like an official closed category, I think the department would probably be more amenable to that than like a withdrawn, but it just kind of stays sitting there in case the person wants to reopen it. The person, I just think that would be difficult for them to justify to the officers and to the union, and that we're just going to keep this case open until something might happen with it. Yeah.
No, I think it makes sense. I think if it needs to be closed at that point, if the person, the complainant at that point is withdrawing, and officially that's the close of that case, until there is another case, then that would be the end of that one. I'm comfortable with.
Okay. Let me talk with the department about that and I'll report back to y'all on it.
Martha, I saw you on mute. Did you have?
Well, I was just thinking, like, because I know there's another one where it's like, when it's an admin closure, that doesn't like send up weird things. So I guess like whatever distinction makes that separate, that this could be something so that that it's voluntary, and if the person did want to bring it back or something. I don't know. Something was very weird about that.
It makes sense. I get the argument to break those out separately. It's worth being able to note that for the public that these were actually withdrawn. Yeah. Sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and that's, Martha, I think kind of what you were saying too is I think also making sure that in these situations, we're not just prepared for what usually happens, but the extremes of the worst things that could happen. And so not suggesting that's the case here, but if there was some kind of pressure to withdraw or intimidation or that sort of thing, that the system is prepared to handle that as well. And that we've labeled these to be able to handle a circumstance where some person comes back a year later and says, that case I withdrew, I'm filing a complaint that I withdrew it because I was intimidated. And that's a different, that's just a different category from unfounded for me. Really good points. Thank you all. That's
the suggestions. I'll pass that along, and I think we'll get to a better situation.
Great. Panel members, any other final business questions, comments, or concerns before we go to public comment? Cool beans. So let me pull up my public comment notes. So for public comment, members of the public, every member of the public will be asked if they'd like to comment. You'll be asked to unmute and to answer, just to make sure we don't accidentally skip over anyone due to a technical error. Any member of the public who does want to comment, you will get 2 unimpeded minutes. If there's an interruption or a loss of connection or anything, we'll be sure to we'll be sure to stop the clock. to make sure you get your full 2 minutes. You will get a verbal notice of time at 20 seconds until your time is up. And I'm going to be putting the stopwatch up on the shared screen. Joey, do I have screen sharing access?
Yes, you do now.
Okay, 1 second, y'all. Pull this off my screen. So. Great. So in that case, Joy, if we want to start with Peter Heisler.
Sorry. Okay, there we go. When you put your screen up, I lost the view.
Everything goes away. Yeah, sorry.
Peter, just allowed you to talk. If you have any question or comment, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. Yeah, my name is Peter Heisler. I'm a member of the Boulder County NAACP. Just here to listen. I don't have a comment, but thank you for your work.
Thanks, Peter, and thank you for being here. I think
Sylvia unmuted you. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
I'm not used to this forum or setup, I guess. And hi, Peter. I am also from the NAACP Boulder County branch from the Criminal Justice Committee, and don't really have a comment, I guess, besides I am glad that it was brought up about the unfounded thing, because that does sound like something that should be addressed. So I'm glad that that was something that's going to be brought up as a suggestion. Yeah, other than that, I have nothing else to add. Thank you all.
Thanks, Sylvia. Thanks for being here. Stop my share. Great. Any final notes, y'all? Again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I will be following up with the rest of the panel to just remind them of our attendance requirements and to get and to share the list of upcoming meetings as well. But yeah, just to reiterate, thank you so much for being here, for making time in your lives in a very upside down world right now. It feels like most times. Yeah, Martha, I see your hand. You're muted.
At the risk of kicking a hornet's nest, I think a little bit of this is preventative harm. And I know it's pending. I know we can't be specific. I know we can't decide things, but I have been thinking a lot about the CU Boulder situation with the racist statements that were found. And I am wondering if that were to happen here, because of the rules and how they exist, would that be considered like a lying?
Martha, are you specifically referring to the incident of there was a CU Boulder police officer who was found making racist comments on social media, I think it was?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And he was terminated, correct?
I believe he's just on administrative leave.
Oh, he was just administrative leave. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify in case anyone else.
That's what I'm referencing. And I know it's out of our jurisdiction. I'm just curious about, like, if we were to find that, what does that mean? Because in my mind, it would go to like lying, which is a fireable offense. But the argument, I guess, in my head I'm making is that like, we've been told that the officers go through some sort of psychological evaluation, and if they actually don't believe what they said they believe, that's a lie. So I don't know. That's just where my brain was going. I was curious. I thought, hey, let me ask my peeps over at POP.
It's a good question. Yeah, it would depend on like the specifics of the case. Like if you said it, if it was the exact same scenario where it's like social media online, I think that we would probably categorize that as a Rule 8 conduct, which I can just, the language from that is along the lines of reflects discredit upon the individual or the department, causes embarrassment, compromises the department's reputation, impairs their credibility, effectiveness, efficiency. Oh, thank you. There you go. If it was in the act of like a police action, then that would put it into the realm of biased policing. And we have there's just in the general orders, it's General Order 101, the very first one on unbiased policing. Sorry, my dog is joining us. But if it was like in the act of policing, like you were taking an official act and you said something like that, then that would support an allegation of biased policing. But if it's social media like this, they do have language about representing the department professionally and not doing things that like this policy is embarrassing the department. So I think it would most cleanly fit under that. And I do think it would be the egregiousness of it. If it was the same degree that we saw in CU, it would be a fireable offense for us as well. Yeah.
I think we've seen in instances in other departments too, if there was a denial of having said those things or participated in those groups, then it would, Martha, to your point, I think it would fall into truthfulness, correct?
I think so, yeah. If they were interviewed and they denied it, and then there was proof that they were a member of a group or something like that, and they just lied, then you would add an untruthfulness to it as well, yeah.
And to clarify too, sorry, yeah, this is a public meeting. And so our jurisdiction as the Boulder Police Oversight Panel, the Boulder Police Department and the CU Boulder Police Departments are two separate entities. And the University of Colorado Boulder Police Department does have its own oversight board, or I'm not sure what they call it, but they do have an oversight board.
I should mention, I've been asked to speak to them the 17th, that's next week. So they are in the midst of trying to build their oversight operation, and they've run into some challenges. So I'm going to meet with them, and I'll report back next month and let you all know how it goes. But
challenges in setting up.
Can you imagine? Yeah. That doesn't happen, right?
No.
On that note, guys, I was reading an article recently. I'll send it around to y'all about Madison, Wisconsin. They've sort of adopted a very similar model to ours. After we got ours set up, they were in touch with us and liked the model that we set up. And so they've been spending the past year trying to get theirs set up, and they've run into a lot of problems. They have 2 lawsuits in play. They made an offer to their monitor. The monitor accepted it, and then after a few days declined it, decided to withdraw from it. They've had lots of difficulties and controversy. So I was reading that and I was thinking, wow, it just made me feel like, well, we made it through this first year actually pretty well, given everything that can go wrong as you're trying to set these operations up. So I'll send that around, and you guys will be even prouder of yourselves after reading this one.
It would be good to get some pats on the back. Yeah.
But I'm still actually helping Madison, the folks in Madison, and I'll stay in touch with them and keep trying to support them.
Well, and Joey, that's something too. Ariel and I had actually, it came up in our conversation with the city managers, connecting with other panels as well. And so, I'd be happy if you wanted to share my email with them as well. Anything I could.
Oh, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, and same with the university, the CU Boulder. I mean, I'm a staff at CU Boulder too. If you want to share my info with them, I'm happy to do it.
Make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I'll reach out to you if you're available on the 17th. It might make sense for you to come along, and we do.
Yeah, I'm happy to do what I can. That's what. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm here for.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you for that, Martha. That's yeah. Thank you.
Hey, it's not often we have access to forums and transparency that's welcomed, so why not?
Yeah. Cool beans. Well, in that case, thank you all very much. I'm so grateful for you and the work you're doing. If you haven't taken a moment, just give yourself a pat on the back. We've done a lot of good work. This work is really important to our community. So thank you. And we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, y'all.